Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going deep today into motivational content, that whole genre.
Yeah.
But we're looking at one specific example today, a YouTube speech called Don't Waste Your Life.
Okay.
And it's from a channel called Motiversity.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we're going to try to unpack the core messages,
Okay.
see what the themes are and how this might connect with your own life experiences as a listener.
I think that's something a lot of people are looking for, that connection with.
Totally right. Yeah, like how can we apply this stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
So right away, this speech, it's delivered by this guy, Coach Payne.
Okay.
And he kind of hits you with a really stark contrast right up front.
Oh, like what?
Feeling the sun on your face
Okay.
versus, being 6 feet under.
Wow, that's an image.
Yeah, so it's pretty intense.
Yeah,
But it does make you think,
for sure.
how precious every day is.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really powerful way to start, and I think it uses that imagery, to pull you into the present moment. And I think that connects with a lot of what we see in philosophy and psychology about mindfulness and gratitude.
Yeah. Cool for interesting.
There's actually real benefit to just focusing on, even something as simple as sunlight.
Right.
It can really shift your perspective.
Wow.
And it can improve your well-being.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's
It's like that wake-up call.
Yeah.
But then he goes on to say, life is always good with all its challenges, right? And he talks about how it's changing and evolving.
Right.
I mean, do you think that's helpful, or is that oversimplifying things a bit?
Well, I think it's important to remember that this is motivational content, so it's highlighting that inherent optimism, right? But there actually is research that shows that a positive mindset can actually help you cope with, stress and setbacks. So it's not about ignoring the tough stuff, but it's about choosing to see those challenges as opportunities for growth.
Yeah. So it's all about how you frame it.
So reframing.
Reframing. Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and he uses this really vivid image of running towards the challenge instead of away from it.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you think that works? Like, do those kinds of motivational tactics actually...
Well, I mean, they must work on some level, or else I don't think this would be such a popular genre.
That's true.
But do you think, the language actually, gets into your brain and makes you...
It can be surprisingly effective. Our brains are wired to respond to that strong language.
Really?
And those metaphors. So when you frame a challenge as something to conquer, it really taps into that natural drive we have to overcome obstacles.
It's like a game almost.
Yeah, and this really connects to the whole concept of resilience, right?
Oh, resilience, okay.
Yeah, that ability to bounce back from adversity.
That's something we all could use a bit more of, I think.
I think so, too. And, a lot of people ask, is that something you're born with, or can you develop it?
Is it nature or nurture?
Exactly.
Right.
And the good news is...
What's that?
Resilience is a skill.
Oh, so you can learn it.
You can cultivate it.
Oh, that's great to hear.
It involves strengthening your coping mechanisms,
Okay.
building a strong support system, and learning how to reframe those negative thoughts.
Well, that's interesting. So it sounds like it's a lot of different elements coming together.
Yeah, it's multifaceted.
Yeah. Okay, so this kind of leads into another big theme that he talks about a lot, and that's that life has inherent meaning. Even when things are really rough. And I think this is something that's been debated for centuries, right? Like, what is the meaning of life?
Oh, for sure. I mean, philosophers and theologians have been grappling with that question for ages.
So are there some different perspectives on it?
Yeah. I mean, some people find meaning in religion or spirituality.
Okay.
Others find it in, their contributions to society.
Right.
And others find it in personal growth and self-discovery.
So it's very individual.
There's no one right answer. And the search for meaning can be a lifelong journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of relatable.
Yeah.
The speech addresses those who might feel unworthy or defeated.
Okay.
And he has this really powerful line. He says, "You were created for something, you wasn't created for nothing."
Wow.
And it just made me think, how common are those feelings of unworthiness, do you think?
I think they're incredibly common.
Right.
Unfortunately, we live in a culture that emphasizes achievement and comparison,
Right.
which can lead to, those feelings of inadequacy.
Yeah.
And negative self-talk can become a real roadblock to growth.
So how do you combat that? What are some practical things people can do? Because that negative voice can be so loud.
It can be really hard to silence,
Yeah.
but one technique that's really effective is to challenge those thoughts directly.
Oh, how do you do that?
You ask yourself, is this thought really true?
Okay.
And is it helpful? And oftentimes those negative beliefs that we have, they're based on distorted thinking. So if you can replace them with something more positive and realistic.
Like affirmations and things.
Affirmations can be powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think another crucial step is practicing self-compassion.
Self-compassion, okay.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
And, it's important to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I
think we all need to work on that, probably.
Yeah.
This leads into another point that he makes, which is about taking control and responsibility for your own life.
Oh, absolutely. And this is all about empowerment.
Right.
He's saying stop dwelling on the things you can't control.
Right.
Focus on what you can influence.
Okay.
And having a clear sense of purpose can be so helpful.
It's like that saying, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails.
Exactly.
Right. But what are some practical tips for setting goals and actually taking action? Because I think that's where people struggle.
Yeah, well, one key is to break down those large goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
Okay.
This makes the whole process less daunting.
Right.
And allows you to feel a sense of accomplishment along the way.
Oh, I like that.
Another thing that's really helpful is being specific about what you want to achieve and set deadlines for yourself.
Oh, deadlines. Okay.
It creates a sense of accountability.
So you're not just floating around.
Yeah, you're not.
You have to get it done.
You've got to take action.
He also talks about rejecting negativity and defining your own path.
Right.
He warns against letting other people's misery, drag you down.
Yeah.
But how realistic is that? To stay positive when you're surrounded by negativity?
It's definitely a challenge.
Especially these days.
Yeah, for sure. But it is possible.
Okay.
One strategy is to be mindful of who you spend your time with.
Okay, that makes sense.
Are there people in your life who consistently bring you down?
Yeah. I can think of a few.
It might be necessary to limit your exposure to those individuals.
Yeah. I can see that.
It's tough.
It's tough.
But you have the power to choose.
Right. You don't have to just be a victim of...
You have agency.
Yeah.
In shaping your environment.
So being proactive.
And the information that you consume.
Okay, so it's not just about the people. It's about the media.
It's about the media.
And all the stuff online, too.
Online communities, all of that. It's about building a positive space for yourself.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so this all kind of builds up to his big call to action, which is don't wait for something to happen, you make it happen.
Yeah.
And I really connect with that.
Yeah, me too.
It's like you're not just a bystander in your own life.
It's a reminder that we have the capacity to create the life that we desire.
Wow.
And, that speaks to these concepts of self-efficacy and proactive behavior.
Self-efficacy.
Yeah, believing in your own ability to make things happen is crucial.
It's a good point.
For success.
Yeah.
It's
like you have the power.
You have the power.
You're not just being acted upon.
It's taking ownership.
Yeah. And realizing you can make change.
Exactly.
I mean, this speech really packs a punch.
It really does.
With its motivational message.
It does. And, I think the key takeaway for listeners is...
What's that?
How can you apply these ideas to your own life?
Yeah, that's the big question.
What's one small step you can take today to move towards your goals?
That's such a great question.
Yeah.
And one that I hope this discussion will help people think about a little bit more.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to continue this deep dive into the world of motivational content.
Okay.
Right after this, so don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back. It's interesting how this speech kind of brings together so many different ideas about motivation. Like gratitude and resilience and finding your purpose and even like a little bit of existentialism in there.
It's a real mix, isn't it?
It is.
Speaking of existentialism, I think it's worth exploring that theme of finding meaning in life a bit further.
Okay.
Because he doesn't really offer any easy answers, does he?
No, he just says that life does have meaning.
Right.
Even when we can't see it.
Yeah.
But how do we reconcile that with those times when it feels meaningless?
Yeah.
We've all had those moments where we question everything.
Absolutely. And that feeling actually ties into a concept in existentialist philosophy called absurdity.
Absurdity, okay.
Yeah. It's basically the idea that we're all searching for this meaning.
Right.
In a universe that might not actually have any inherent meaning.
So it's like we're trying to solve a puzzle.
Yeah.
But we don't even know if there's a picture to guide us.
Exactly. It's like trying to find a pattern where there might not be one.
That's got to be frustrating.
It can be, yeah. And for some people, it leads to despair.
Right. Like, what's the point?
But some existentialists see this absurdity as a chance to create our own meaning.
Okay, so if the universe isn't going to hand us a purpose,
right,
we get to choose.
We define it ourselves.
Wow, that's empowering.
It puts the responsibility on us.
Yeah.
Which can feel daunting for some people.
Right. It's a lot of pressure.
But it can also be incredibly liberating.
I can see that. Yeah, like you're not bound by it.
Exactly. You're free to create your own path.
You're the author of your own story.
Exactly. And what matters to you at 20 might be totally different at 40 or 60.
That's true.
You know, life is all about exploration and evolution.
That kind of reminds me of that idea he talked about, that life is always good.
Right.
Even with all the challenges. And it's not about pretending everything's perfect,
but
about finding the good in the tough situations.
All right.
So is that what he means by life is always good?
I think it's a lot about perspective.
Oh.
You know, two people can experience the exact same event,
Right.
but they interpret it completely differently.
Totally.
One person sees a tragedy.
Yeah.
The other person sees an opportunity to learn and grow.
But it doesn't mean you should just ignore your negative emotions.
Right. You have to acknowledge them.
Right.
But it's about recognizing that there are different ways to view things.
So it's choosing to focus on the positive.
Yeah.
But not denying the reality.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
But how do you stay positive when it feels really hard?
It's definitely a practice.
Yeah.
Not a perfect state, you know?
Right.
And sometimes it can be helpful to think of it less as always being positive and more about actively looking for the good.
So you have to make a conscious effort.
Exactly. It's a choice.
Okay, so this brings us back to his call to action.
Yeah.
Don't wait, make it happen.
Yeah. Such a powerful statement.
But also kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, where do you even begin?
Well, I think it starts with setting clear goals.
Okay.
And taking those first steps.
But how do you choose the right goals?
Well, one helpful step is identifying your values.
Okay.
What's truly important to you in life.
So, like, what are your priorities?
Exactly. And once you have that clarity, you can start making choices that align with those values.
So if one of your core values is, like, creativity,
you might try to find ways to bring more creative activities into your life.
Exactly, like painting or writing.
Or even just like thinking outside the box at work or something.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to express yourself.
Yeah, and then as you start taking action,
Yeah.
you're going to hit some roadblocks.
Oh, for sure.
That's where that resilience comes in.
Exactly. You have to have the grit to keep going.
Even when it gets tough.
Even when it gets tough. And remember, setbacks are normal.
It's not about being perfect, right?
It's about progress.
I like that, progress over perfection.
I love that.
That's a good mantra.
It's a great mantra to keep in mind.
But it's easier said than done, I think.
It is, especially in today's culture.
Where you're supposed to be hustling all the time.
All the time, achieving.
Achieving.
Yeah, it's hard to accept that it's okay to slow down.
And make mistakes.
And make mistakes, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance between striving for excellence and being kind to yourself.
It's like you can celebrate the wins.
Yes.
But also acknowledge your limits.
Exactly.
And give yourself permission to rest.
And recharge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This kind of ties back into that idea of surrounding yourself with positive influences, too.
Absolutely. It's about creating a supportive environment that nurtures your growth and well-being.
So like spending time with inspiring people.
Exactly.
Finding mentors, maybe.
Link towards role models.
Or even just being careful about what you're watching and reading and listening to.
Absolutely. The media you consume,
Yeah.
it all plays a role.
And sometimes you just have to be your own cheerleader.
Yeah, that's so important.
Right.
Sometimes the most important voice is your own inner voice.
Yeah, that voice of encouragement.
Of encouragement.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is so important.
For resilience.
For resilience and for success.
So it's about cultivating that positive inner dialogue.
Yeah.
And celebrating all your wins.
All of them, no matter how small.
No matter how small.
It's about recognizing your own worth.
Yeah.
And believing in your ability to achieve your goals.
I mean, that's a powerful message.
It is.
And it's a good reminder that we all have the potential to create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
Absolutely. But, you know, he also emphasizes that sense of urgency.
Right.
In the speech, he's like, don't waste a single moment of this precious life.
Carpe diem.
Exactly. That carpe diem spirit is definitely a common thread in motivational content.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that time is valuable.
Very valuable.
Don't take it for granted.
And we shouldn't waste it.
So how do we make sure we're not wasting it?
Well, it's about living with intention.
Okay.
Making conscious choices.
It's easy to get caught up in the daily grind, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
And just lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, we can get so focused on the day-to-day.
That we forget what we're actually working towards.
Exactly. But I think that's what this speech really makes you think about.
Yeah.
How are you spending your time?
Right. Is it aligned with your values?
With your goals.
Yeah.
It encourages us to make choices that actively move us closer to the life we want.
And it can be one small step at a time.
One small step at a time.
It's about making each day count.
Even in small ways.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one thing you hope listeners will take away from our conversation today?
I hope they feel empowered to take control of their lives.
Yeah.
And believe in their own ability to achieve their dreams.
That's great. And what about you? What stood out to you the most?
For me, it's that reminder that while life can be challenging, it's also full of opportunities for growth and joy. Yeah. We have the power to choose how we respond to those challenges.
That's so important.
And create a life that's meaningful to us.
It is.
And that's a really empowering thought.
Yeah, it really is. And as we kind of wrap up this whole deep dive into motivational content, I keep thinking about this idea of personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really hammers home the point that we're not just passengers, in our own lives.
It's a really central theme, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's like he's challenging us to move beyond just reacting to what's happening to us and instead
be proactive.
Proactively create the life we want.
Yeah, take the wheel.
It's like taking control.
Yeah, stepping into the driver's seat.
Exactly.
But that can feel kind of intimidating.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Like, where do you even start?
Well, I think he makes a good point when he emphasizes that you don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah.
You don't have to make these huge sweeping changes overnight.
Right. Small steps.
Small steps consistently applied can make a big difference over time.
So it's like instead of feeling overwhelmed by, changing your whole life.
Right.
You can just focus on one small thing today.
Exactly.
And then another small thing tomorrow.
And build on those small wins.
Yeah, and just keep building.
Keep that momentum going.
Okay, so you're setting realistic goals.
Realistic goals.
And then building from there.
And making sure those goals align with your values.
Oh, right.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
So it's not just random action.
No, it's got to be meaningful.
It's like you're moving towards something.
It's all connected to the bigger picture.
Yeah, and that gives you a sense of purpose.
Exactly. And I think that sense of purpose is really key.
Yeah.
For staying motivated over time.
Because you know why you're doing it.
Exactly, when you know the why.
It's easier to keep going.
It's so much easier to push through those challenges.
Right, because you're going to hit roadblocks.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to face setbacks. It's inevitable.
So even when you feel that doubt creeping in.
Yeah, those moments of frustration.
You can come back to that why.
It's like your anchor.
That's a good way to put it.
It keeps you grounded.
Yeah, it's like your inner compass.
Ooh, I like that.
Right, to help you navigate through all the ups and downs.
The twists and turns of life.
Exactly. And I think that's a really powerful message to end on.
Yeah, I think so too.
We all have that inner compass.
We do.
That sense of purpose that can lead us to a more fulfilling life.
It's about listening to that inner voice.
And trusting it.
And letting it guide you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I want to encourage everyone listening to think about what really spoke to you.
Yeah. What resonated with you the most from this speech?
What are you going to take away from it?
Was there a particular nugget of wisdom or a call to action that really stuck with you?
Yeah, think about that. And remember, as Coach Payne said, don't wait for things to happen, make them happen.
Yeah. Great advice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of motivation.